EdTech Mondays Kenya is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in partnership with EdTech East Africa.
Welcome to this edition of EdTech Mondays Kenya. We are in the vibrant town of Malindi, known for its historic charm and amazing beaches. In this episode, we explore the power of lifelong learning in marginalized communities and how Elimu, an EdTech organization, is using technology, creativity, and community-based programs to ensure that no learner is left behind. Now, what if education didn't stop at school, but followed us throughout life? From toddlers in play-based learning to youth in prison preparing for national examination. We're visiting Elimu Resource Center to discover how holistic tech-integrated education can transform futures, not only for students, but for families and entire community. Thank you all for joining us on this edition. I'm your host, Ian Wafula. But before we begin the story of education as a lifelong journey towards dignity and opportunity, let's take a look at some of the key terms that you'll hear throughout this episode. The first one is lifelong learning. This is the continuous pursuit of knowledge and its skills throughout an individual's life, from early childhood to adulthood. Elimu embodies this by offering learning opportunities at every stage. Then there is play-based learning, which is an approach to early childhood education where play is the primary medium for teaching and learning. The third one is digital literacy. This is the ability to access, evaluate, and use digital tools and platforms effectively and responsibly. We also have skills for employability. These are practical, industry-relevant competencies that increase one's ability to gain and sustain meaningful work. Finally, we have community-centered learning, which is an approach where education solutions are designed for the specific needs of a local community. Well, with that, it is time to understand how Elimu, an EdTech education, is using technology, creativity, and community-based programs to ensure no learner is left behind. I will be speaking to Monga, who is the program manager at Elimu.
Yeah, my name is Monga. I work here at Elimu Resource Center, and here I am the programs manager for skills development.
So can you tell us how all this started?
Yeah, Elimu is founded by our founder, Nina Chang, who is a Canadian lady who came to Kenya to volunteer in one of the vocational training here in Kilifi County. While doing her volunteership, she started supporting two boys, James and Joseph. And that is where our pioneer project was born. And over time, Elimu has grown to becoming a resource center where we have been supporting learners and majorly supporting access to education here in the Malindi community.
And of course, over the years now, thousands of young people and families have benefited from Elimu. Could you tell us some of the programs that you run?
At Elimu, we have the Resource Center, which is a space where learners come to do their revision during the holidays. And it is open for all learners of all kinds, who usually come here to access learning materials, some that are not available in school and others that are for revision purposes. Apart from the Resource Center, we do have a stay in school program where we support learners to stay in school by paying for them school fees. We also have the Cisco Networking Academy, where those who have finished the formal education, the basic education up to Form 4, they are being able to come to the center to acquire some IT skills through the Cisco Networking Academy and get a certification after they are done with that. We also have the Digital Club, where we support IT enthusiasts, those who are interested in the IT skills, varied from networking, web development, coding, robotics, 3D. So we have a space here that the learners come to build on their hands-on skills for them to be employable.
Yeah. And at the backbone of all these programs that you're talking about, technology plays a crucial part. Could you tell us about some of the technologies perhaps you could talk about the most popular one that you use here?
So we have a platform which we call offline e-learning solution, where learners come to access all the learning materials at one place. So using one tablet, they are able to get the books that they need, that they don't need to go to the shelves to get a book for a different subject. So with one tablet, they are able to access all the learning materials that they need for their revision and for their learning. And on top of that, we are able to monitor what they are doing and get reports on their progress of learning.
Your work involves including marginalized groups like young mothers, young people who cannot afford school, or even inmates. How then do you ensure that EdTech reaches them in an inclusive way?
Yeah, one thing that we have learned over time is that technology is one of the interesting way to it brings an innovative way of accessing education and new ways of learning. And two is that it is inclusive in a way that there is no cost, because we don't have to purchase paper books to get the materials to them. With one gadget, they can access whatever they need in the tablet or a laptop. So that's how we have been able to improve the experience of the learners, and also making sure that it doesn't cost much because it is actually offline.
Tell us a bit about the Elimu Familia Stawi, which was one of the programs that I also came across on your website.
Yes, Elimu Familia Stawi is our newest project that we are empowering caregivers and the children, so that the caregivers we can create bond between the caregivers and the children, but more on play-based learning to help the cognitive development of the children, so that once they get to school, they can be able to progress well.
What has been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned over the years, especially when you work with groups that have been long forgotten or no one would think about, for instance, taking education and technology to prisoners?
I think one of our biggest lessons that we have learned is that creating impact doesn't need a lot of resources, and access to education is the biggest empowerment that you can give to the people, because with education you allow people to massive opportunities.
It is very inspiring to hear the story of Elimu and how it all started with helping 2 young boys to go to kindergarten, and now thousands of children and families have benefited over the years. But how exactly do they use technology to empower learners? Let's speak to James Gome, who's an instructor at Elimu Digitech Hub.
If there are any challenges, we need to know in advance. Yeah? At the end of the day, remember what we told you. We are here for us to give you skills.
My name is James Gome. I am an instructor here at Elimu Resource Center and at the Digitech Lab.
Could you tell us more about the program that you instruct in and the kind of learners that you actually work with?
So Digitech has two folds to it. And the one that I'm involved in is what we call the tech training. Tech training is a 6-month program that is meant to equip learners with skills. Skills ranging from web development to app development, cybersecurity, graphic design, photography, videography. And the major aim is to make sure that students actually have skills in these areas. A lot of times you'll get people who have done IT or have certifications in IT, but they lack the practical bit. So that's where, as tech training, Digitech Lab is the gap we exist to fill. By the end of the program, the aim is to have this student either a very good employee because they know they have the skills to do whatever they're doing and they can prove it, or for them to set up their own businesses. Because if you know how to make a website and you're good in graphic design, then you can employ yourself instead of looking for employment.
Yeah. A majority of your learners come from non-traditional backgrounds or vulnerable communities as well, some of whom actually might not even have had prior education. Then how do you tailor the program or your instructions to make sure it is more accessible?
Now, for that, we have just a component before getting to Digitech which we call the Cisco. We are a registered Cisco Networking Academy, and part and parcel of what we do is that these students that we get who have no idea or do not have any experience in terms of tech, they go through Cisco Networking Academy and get a basic, what we call IT essentials. They learn what a computer is and how to operate it. Then from there, we can move them now to actually take the Digitech tech training, because they are competent in these matters of IT. So we make sure that for those who know nothing at all, there is something for them. There is a way they can start up and still get to catch up with the rest.
Obviously, you spend a lot of time with some of these learners. What kind of growth have you seen, and how impactful has the program been on them?
Being in a class with somebody who's young and somebody who's a bit older, there is some sort of mentorship going on, because that older person is more focused towards what they want. The younger person might not be as dedicated to them, but you put them in the same group and you give them something, a project to do together, and you see how they're able to open up their minds, to more things, because this person has more life experience than them. And there are some who come, they have never experienced much in using a computer, but at the end of the day, they are able to make their own websites.
From an instructor's point of view, you're obviously looking at a very diverse class. Does it ever become challenging, especially when you think about learning needs, or also the interpretation abilities, so to say?
It definitely. Just take an example at this cohort where we have somebody who is not a Kenyan. So they don't understand Swahili. Then you have a student who the highest level of education was class 8, so they didn't go to high school. For them, English is also a bit challenging for them. So now you have to find a way to make sure that these two students will both get something at the end of your class. Even if you're going to be saying one thing in English and repeating the same thing in Swahili for this other person to understand, it becomes necessary. They are different, and at the end of the day, both of them have to get something.
And how do you see these transferable skills also help the learners?
One, at the end of it all, it is giving people courage to be able to express themselves. Take something as simple as graphic design. A component of graphic design is you being able to build your brand and giving a certain voice to it. And as you're learning it, you have practicals where you have to present before people. If this is your work, so you need to present it before people and make people understand why you did what you did. So you get to see them getting courage to actually learn to speak up for themselves. And also, they're able to take up some few challenges here and there.
Yeah. What would you tell anyone who's watching this who probably has the mindset that technology is only applicable to young people or those who are tech savvy? We're seeing you working with a diverse set of people.
Yeah. Right now, if you do not have skills in technology, then you're missing out on a lot of things, because I don't think there's any sector that does not rely on technology. So I think for anyone of any age, tech is easy to learn because it does not need much of a background. Whatever we are teaching people in terms of technology is problem solving. Everything we teach is all about problem solving, and problem solving is something I think every one of us is born with it. Yeah, any problems we meet in our lives, you find a way to solve it. We are just using tools that are technological in order to solve them.
Yeah, very well put. And finally, James, like for teachers watching this and across Kenya who often work with limited resources, especially when it comes to EdTech, what is the one thing that you'd tell them?
And do not be afraid to improvise. Yeah, because we know we live in a world of limited resources. So whatever you have, do not be afraid to improvise, to come up with a new way of doing whatever you have.
Elimu runs a number of programs, and one of them is Artisan Maker Space. This is an incubation space offering advanced training and resources for sewing artisans to boost their income generation and expose them to a wider field of fashion and textile design.
Mimi ni mwanabiashara niliyejifunza kushona. Kwa sahi na shonea huko nyumbani.
Na unaweza tukwambia wakati ambapo ulijiunga na mradi huu wa AMS, nini kilikuleta hapa?
Kilichonileta hapa ni hiyo kushona, na niliona rafiki zangu wenye wanaendeleza hiyo kushona. So nikaingiwa na ile motisha ya kuwa mwanabiashara na mimi wa kujiunga hiyo kushona.
Na unakumbuka wakati ambapo uliingia na kwa sasa, yani maisha yako unaweza sema ilibadilika kivipi?
Yalibadilika kwa sababu wakati naingia hapa sikuwa ninajua chochote. Nilitamani kujua lakini sikuwa ninajua chochote. But wakati ninaingia hapa kuna vitu vingi nilijifunza, na kwa saa hii naweza kujimudu mwenyewe, siwezi lala njaa.
Na vitu kama design, yani uamue ndio uitengeneze ifike mpaka hapa, unatoa wapi hiyo design?
Ninatoa kwa simu. Niko na simu yenye huwa naangalia. So kama kuna design fulani nataka, naenda kwa simu, napitia, alafu najaribu kufanya. Lakini nikifanya naona imetoka venye nimeangalia, na ninashona, nauza.
Kwa hivyo kama haungekuwa umejiunga na mradi huu wa AMS, unafikiria ungekuwa wapi sasa?
Nisingekuwa nimejiunga na AMS, sasa sijui kama maisha yangu angekuwa vipi. Kwa sababu sikuwa na ule uwezo wa kujisomesha kwingine, ndo nikaja hapa AMS. Yeah.
Kwa hivyo sasa kwa wale wasichana ambao wangependa kuingia katika mradi huu, yani na pia wangependa kuingia kwanza kushona, unaweza waambia nini?
Naweza waambia kwa kushona kuna faida katika maisha, kwa sababu unaweza kujitegemea mwenyewe. Hautakuwa mtu wa kuombaomba, kwa sababu ukijua kushona utaweza kujikimu katika maisha.
Sandy's journey shows just how practical hands-on learning can be. But there are still many misconceptions about what lifelong learning really looks like, especially when technology and creativity are involved. Let's now take a moment to unpack some of them. The first myth is that education ends with formal schooling.
Well, learning continues across all stages of life. Elimu's program, from parenting workshops to digital skilling for out-of-school learners, demonstrates that education can and should evolve with person's age, needs, and circumstances.
The other myth is that tech-based learning only works for well-resourced urban schools.
That is actually not true. The reality is that Elimu uses low-cost, adaptable tools like offline e-learning solutions, solar-powered digital kits, and mobile labs to bring education to under-resourced, rural, and special needs communities.
Then the third myth is that play is not a serious learning method.
What we all need to realize is that play-based learning develops critical early skills such as communication, problem solving, and even emotional regulation. It's especially effective for children under 5.
Finally, many people think digital skills are only for young, tech-savvy people.
We have seen that Elimu trains diverse learners, including artisans, inmates, and caregivers, many of whom had limited prior exposure to technology. With the right approach, digital skills are accessible to everyone.
Lifelong learning doesn't just happen in classrooms or training labs, it begins at home. One of Elimu's impactful programs, Elimu Familia, is showing parents how simple, everyday activities can spark learning for young children.
My name is Quinta Aoko. I work at Elimu as program officer for a project called Elimu Familia.
I've been watching you move around and I feel like you're very passionate about Elimu Familia. Tell us what it is about.
Elimu Familia, it is an Elimu project first. It was started last year in July, and Familia means thriving families. So the main reason for starting Elimu Familia was to enhance early childhood development and education. And to achieve that, at Elimu, we do it by engaging caregivers or the parents actively in play-based learning. We do empowerment for these parents, and we also we promote health and nutrition. Yeah.
So as an organization, why was it important to not just work with children, but also bring parents? And not only are you showing them how to empower themselves, but you're also, teaching them different aspects of life. Why was that important?
So we saw that the main gap comes with the parents. First, parents are not informed, mostly in areas of child protection. Our economic empowerment comes with the poverty gap. With poverty, parents are stressed, they are not stable, they're not well equipped or stable to be able to care for this child. So we saw the gap first. The gap informed us to start Elimu Familia Stawi, and our target was the parent. The parent stands in the gap. If they are able to know about the essential skills, they are able to learn about how to engage with the children in a responsive way, it will really contribute to their holistic development before they get to school, so that we don't just burden and put so much blame to the ECD teachers.
And another crucial thing that you're teaching the parents is how to integrate play-based learning into their child's life. Why is this important?
Integrating play-based learning into a child's life. Children learn through play, and we normally tell them it should be organic. It should not be like organic is natural. Yeah, it should happen like you are feeding the child, the baby. You should have a connection in a playful way. You are cooking in the kitchen. Bring this salt for me. Bring me sugar. Mommy, why do you put only 1 spoon, not 2? It is like a play, but also they learn. So we integrate this play to be able to make the child to develop holistically. Our target is cognitive development. And we also believe that in the first 5 years of life, we call it windows of the brain of the child. It is so open that they are able to capture so much. And for them, they do it by experimental, by trying through curiosity. When you teach them in class that A is A, B is B, it is like memorizing. But if they get to experience, it is a good way of learning. Yeah.
The Elimu Familia Stawi program guides parents using hands-on activities and simple, relatable examples drawn from their everyday lives. With such support and creativity, parents begin to realize that they already have what it takes to help their children learn and grow every day. But how exactly can they do this at home with their kids?
Mimi naitwa Gladys Sidi, ni mama wa watoto wawili.
Na leo ni nini unafanya hapa?
Leo tumekuja ili kama kufuzu hii mambo ya mradi wa elimu resource. Tumekuwa na hayo mafunzo na leo ni kama tunatamatisha. Leo ndio session ya mwisho.
Na ulijiunga wakati mgani, na yani baadhi ya hizo programs ambazo mnafunzwa ni kama gani?
Nilijiunga last year mimi, na programs zenye tunafanya kuna hayo mafunzo ya kupanda mboga, kutengeneza sabuni, kushona sodo, kushona nguo, kubake cake, mambo ya saving na mambo ya tarakilishi na hiyo mambo ya saving.
Kwa hivyo ni sawa kusema kuwa yani tangu ujiunge na mradi huu maisha yako imebadilika kwa kiasi. Naweza tuambia kwa kiasi gani? Yani ni nini haswa ambayo umejifunza hapa huko unajua mbeleni?
Chenye ambacho kimenivutia sana ni mambo ya kupanda mboga. Sababu ukipanda mboga unapata chakula, huwezi kula chakula bila mboga. Kwangu na hata kwa watoto. Sasa nimepanda mboga kwangu na hiyo mboga naitumia kwa chakula, pia nauzia watu. Na pesa yenye napata inanisaidia pia kuinua maisha kwa kiwango kiasi. Haijakuwa sana vile kwa sababu hatukuanza kitambo, lakini hiyo mboga sikosi mboga kwangu na sikosi mboga ya kuuzia watu. na sikosi shilingi 10 ama 20 ya kupea mtoto ya lunch.
Na tunaweza zungumza kuhusu mradi huu kwa vile ambavyo imesaidia watoto wako. Baadhi ya vitu ambavyo wanafunza watoto ni kuwa si lazima mtoto ajifunze kwenye darasa peke yake. Pia kuna michezo. Waweza tuambie vile imebadilisha ama imesaidia watoto wako?
Mimi kibinafsi watoto wangu wamesaidika tangu waingie kwa huu mradi. Sababu kuna huyo msichana alikuwa hata hana courage ile ya kusimama mbele ya watu, lakini kwa sababu ya kule kuingiliana na watoto wengine, sahi amekuwa vizuri tena sana. Ni mwana mashairi na alienda mpaka Embu kwa national.
Na kitu kingine, baadhi ya wazazi wanafikiri kuwa mtoto lazima akae darasani asome, hakuna wakati wa mchezo. Waweza kuambia nini?
Mimi naweza kuambia hata watoto kucheza ni muhimu. Watoto kucheza ni muhimu kwa sababu ukicheza, mimi binafsi mzazi kuna umuhimu wa kwamba acheze na mtoto wake. Akae na mtoto wake vizuri, acheze naye. Ukicheza naye ndio anakuwa na ile courage ya kukwambia hata mambo yake ya ndani.
Our takeaway today is that learning doesn't just happen in a classroom. It can happen in your homes, communities, and at any age. We hope that this story of Elimu inspires you to see education as a lifelong journey and to think that it all began with a simple act of helping 2 young boys take their first steps into kindergarten. That's it for this edition of EdTech Mondays Kenya. Remember to follow us on social media using the hashtag EdTech Mondays to share your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Special thanks to our sign language interpreter, Ms. Rose Omolo. My name is Ian Ofula. Until next time, goodbye.
EdTech Mondays Kenya is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in partnership with EdTech East Africa.